Hi, my name is Taylor Cedillo. Today I will be creating a project to help understand density. Density is the degree of compactness of a substance. For this project, there were 3 observations, key points that we needed to have in mind before creating the project. So the first one is that density actually determines whether an object will float or sink. The second one is that if the object is less dense than the liquid it is placed in, it's going to go ahead and float. And if the object is more dense than the liquid it is placed in, it will sink. The easiest way to understand the relationship between the density of an object and the density of the liquid it is placed in is to use a rather simple procedure. So for this experiment, we're going to be using an egg and water. So the water that we're going to be using, there's going to be 2 types, 2 conditions. One of them is going to be regular tap water, and the other is going to be tap water with salt, iodized salt. So when this iodized salt is added to the water and it dissolves, it's going to go ahead and increase the mass of the water and overall increase the density. So when we place the egg inside of this salt water, we're hypothesizing that it's going to go ahead and float. And the reason why is because now this water is more dense. So this egg, which will be less dense in comparison, is going to go ahead and float rather than sink. And then for the regular water, the egg is going to sink because it's going to be more dense than the water that has not been treated with salt. So the procedure for this experiment is pretty straightforward. We're going to be using 2 cups, 2 eggs, tap water for each cup, and one of the cups is going to have salt inside of it. So the one with salt inside is our experimental, and the one that's just plain tap water is going to be our control. With our 2 conditions already set up, the control and the experimental, we'll be dropping 1 egg in each cup at the same time to see what will happen. In conclusion, as seen in the qualitative observations of the procedure, the egg did in fact float when placed in salt water, but sunk when placed in regular water. Now, the key understanding is that the reason it sunk in the first place was because the egg was more dense than the water itself. But when we added that salt, the water became more dense than the egg itself, and the egg ended up floating because now it's less dense than the liquid it's placed in. Now, although this was a small-scale project, it's very important to understand the larger aspect of it, that this can be applied to many other things, not just the way we're using it right now. It can be applied to boats. For example, a boat. Obviously, if a boat is floating, this has to be because the boat itself is less dense than the water, than the ocean, and that's why it even has the ability to float.